Hello, welcome back to the Cinch YouTube channel, where today I am riding solo. But interesting car to review. It is the Honda ZR-V, which is a hybrid model. It's smaller than Honda's CR-V, but bigger than its HR-V. And it goes up against cars like the Volkswagen Tiguan, the Hyundai Tucson, or even the Ford Kuga. This is a big category of cars, one of the best-selling in our country, but this is a proper hybrid model, which is quite rare in this class. Most of the cars are purely petrol. So it looks pretty interesting. It should be pretty efficient as well. And we're going to find out in this video if it's worth your cash. But before we get into the details, make sure you check out cinch.co.uk or, of course, download our app before browsing for your next car. Now, this car starts from £39,495 in elegance trim model, but there are two trims that sit above it. You've got Sport and Advance. This is an advanced car, and it will start from just over £42,000. So it's the most expensive, but it's also set to be the UK's best seller, so we're told. Under the bonnet, you'll find a 4-cylinder 2-litre engine shared with the Honda Civic, but it's got hybrid power here, so you've got quite a good amount of torque. In fact, you've got over 180 horsepower and over 300 newton meters of torque. That makes this car good for a 0 to 62 mile-an-hour sprint in under 8 seconds. It'll do over 100 mile-an-hour as well, so the numbers are where they need to be. But what's most important is the fact that this thing is supposed to be very fuel efficient. Over 50 miles per gallon is possible, despite this thing being pretty large. This is a fairly large car, despite us now calling this kind of a mid-size SUV. And so, of course, fuel efficiency is the name of the game in this car, but also Honda has a tendency to make its cars drive quite nice, so I think it should handle pretty well. But before we get on the road, I just want to show you the interior because I'm actually a big fan. Now, inside this top grade model, we have some really nice materials. I mean, there are lovely leathers. The seats are very soft indeed, but I've seen even in the lower spec cars, which Honda refuses to say are entry-level cars, but you know, they don't come with as nice materials. The seats are very comfortable as well. You've got a good amount of tech in here. This system and these screens are going to be familiar from other cars, Civic included, and it works well. It's nowhere near as interesting to look at as other brands of infotainment system. I think, you know, companies are trying to make their infotainment systems a bit more interactive, a bit more pretty, and Honda's sticking with the functional thing. And there's no complaints from me about that really, because you get in and it works really well. You've also got nice big buttons down here. I mean, your gear control stuff down here. I do miss having a selector, but look how much space it clears up here. Lots of space as well for big cups, wireless phone charging, and then you've got a bit of room down here as well. More storage in here as well. So, I mean, functionally speaking, this thing is excellent. As you can see, the dials and screens on that digital display are really sharp and really clear as well. And I just think you can just sense that Honda's really trying to nail ergonomics and functionality. Look at the buttons on the steering wheel. Everything's simple. You can't mistake what these things do. It's all so obvious and so clear. You can't accidentally press them like you can in other cars with touch-sensitive buttons. Volkswagen. These just work really well and it's really effective. They even thought about the positioning of your indicator stalks and your windscreen washer stalks. These have been positioned on a horizontal level rather than with a slight angle like you often see, just so that they don't block the view to the dash ahead. Peugeot, take note. Oh, and before I forget, I should say this car's safety assistance features, the stuff that helps you drive, are really very good. The adaptive cruise is great, nicely positioned up here. The steering assist as well is really good. You literally just have to rest your hands on the wheel and the car will take the workload out of steering the car down a motorway. So it's really good. And also you can adjust how close you are to the car ahead. Nothing new. And other cars have this stuff, but it works very well with Hondas. So I think it's a really nice interior, really easy as well to adjust your climate control. It's just simple, so easy to use, and there is a joy in that. That said, if you're anything like me, this USB port being right next to your leg and this having Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard is going to be really important. And check out this really cool feature. It shows the car on your dash as it looks from the rear. So if I hit the brakes there, you see they come on. Look, even the indicator shows. That's cool. As for the back seats, well, actually, they're really generous indeed. I have that seat ahead of me set how I like it, and I've got loads of room. I mean, my legs are, let me get the camera on the sides here. They're not far off straight. That's really impressive for legroom. And because I can tuck my feet under the seat ahead, despite this being set as low as it can go, it is very comfortable indeed. You've got two USB-C ports down here and obviously two vents as well. And you've got heated seats in the back of this top model as well. And I must say, this is just reminding me, the sound system in this top model is really very good. It's powerful, it's punchy, and the quality is great. There's no rattles from the interior when you turn it up either. And the seats are nice with this leather, the good finish here. Middle seat is quite narrow by the looks of it. I'll try that in a second, but you've got your armrest here with your cup holders. Let's jump in the middle. And, oh, it's actually really nice because we don't have what other cars have where they've got this tunnel through the middle here for a drive shaft or whatever. Because this car has all of its power and everything up front, there's no need for anything to be coming through the floor here. So there's actually lots of room. So while, of course, this is the smallest seat of the lot, it's not bad at all. And despite there not being that much in actual seat space for my backside, I've got good leg room, and I can imagine actually this not being too bad, especially for younger kids. And you'll see above me as well, we do have a panoramic sunroof. This opens all the way, as I will show you in a little cutaway shot now. As for boot space, if I use the automatic tailgate here, it's not too bad at all. You'll note this car does have an optional rubber mat in here. I'm sure a lot of people would like that, especially if you've got wellies or a dog. But as you can see, the space is pretty good. We've got nice wide sections low down here as well. And you can see there is a big speaker in here for this top model, which does actually take a little bit of space out of the boot itself. It takes 10 litres away from the 380 you get if you don't have that big subwoofer in the boot. But I mean, realistically, you're probably not going to use every nook and cranny in here. And as you can see, there is plenty of space around. You don't get tons in the way of underfloor storage, but that isn't uncommon these days, especially for hybrid cars. There's a little bit of storage down here, but otherwise there's just a bit of carpet and some filler in there, obviously, because you start to get to where the technology is put, where batteries and things are. That's not uncommon for hybrids, so it's not a big deal. And actually this boot is quite usable, nice and generous. Having a flat loading section there as well is going to be great, especially if you carry a pram in, for example, or even for a dog. I think it just makes it more inviting. And while I'm around the back here, actually, I should just show that you do actually get two exhausts down here, and they are genuine. Look, they're inside a little chrome cover, but they are real exhausts. And I do quite like the fact that this car doesn't have ridiculously large wheels. It comes as standard on all models with 18s. So that should bode pretty well for ride. That's a nice squidgy tyre on there. I think it should drive quite nice then, which is handy because our roads are very rubbish in the UK, aren't they? So yeah, let's hit the road and see how this thing does. I'm on my own, remember, so I can't film as I drive, but I will update you in just a moment. Okay, so I've been driving the car for almost 2 hours. I've driven on a good mixture. I've done urban roads, we've had some nice B roads, we've had some very broken and bumpy ones as well. And I've driven on some paved roads as well, so through some lovely old villages. And I must say, firstly, the thing I noticed was this powertrain is so quiet. It's really refined. There is a 2-litre engine up ahead, but I can barely hear it. It's just a very light background noise, and you can barely hear any electric whine or anything like that as well. It's just a really quiet and refined powertrain, but it is also nice and easy to drive. It really picks up smoothly. You've got a nice delivery of electric oomph, but then you've got a nice smooth delivery of petrol power as well. Now, it rides pretty well as well. The car has, as I saw earlier, those chunky tyres, and I think they do really help for this to absorb some of the bumps and especially potholes and cracks. It never thuds or crashes into anything. It just smooths out some rougher surfaces. You are aware that they're there. This isn't Rolls-Royce soft, but it is very good indeed. And the car feels tough. You go over a speed hump with a little bit too much speed perhaps, well, it doesn't feel like the car's going to break. It feels tough and solid. There are no rattles from this interior at all as well. It's just a nice place to be. I have to say there is a little bit of road noise. The tyres do whoosh and sort of hiss a little bit on motorways, but they're not at all overly intrusive. It's a background noise, and as soon as you put the stereo on, you can't hear it. And I certainly couldn't because I was turning it up a lot. The stereo in this car is great. Other things to note are the handling. I mean, it goes around corners quite nicely. It's quite a soft car in the sense that it doesn't lean into corners like some cars, and it doesn't try to pretend to be a sports car. So when you turn in with a bit of speed, you carry momentum into a bend, you can feel the car just start to lean over a little bit, but then it settles and it's actually nice and composed. You do have drive modes as well down here, which you can see, and it will switch through, as you can see, normal, even down to an economy, and a snow mode as well, which does also have a hill descent control system down here as well. So if you find yourself going downhill in slippery conditions, it's nice to know that the car can help you get down there safely. Overall, it's a nice and sensible package. Not particularly interesting to drive, quick enough, builds momentum, holds momentum on the motorway well enough, but it's not a champion in any of those measures. It's just a nice rounded package. I think what really stands out is just how easy it is to get into this car and go. So overall, I'm a big fan of this Honda ZR-V. I think it does exactly what it needs to. I think it doesn't try too hard in any department. I think it just nails the brief in being a good all-rounder, nice to live with, easy to drive, and yeah, I think pretty good to look at as well. It's comfortable, and I think given that it's starting at just under 40 grand, it's priced where it needs to be as well. It's going to be very competitive with those rivals, and I think a lot of people who want dependability and reliability, Honda's got a great name for this stuff. Well, I can see why you would be drawn to this motor. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. We will, of course, try and jump back in another one of these again soon. But for now, here is the Honda ZR-V out later this year on roads in the summer sometime, looking smart and nice against this beautiful backdrop. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the like button and of course subscribe if you haven't already.